Hey everyone! Today we're going to be exploring two of my very favorite retro game shops in Akihabara. Let's take a look. And starting off at Surugaya, we've got this corner of Sharp 68000 and PC 9801 games. This was really cool because I'd never seen so many of them in one place before. So starting off, we've got Sorcerian. This is an old school RPG for the PC 9801. Famously, Yuzo Koshiro composed a bunch of music for this game. Really fantastic sounding stuff. You can listen to it on YouTube. And yeah, it's just a cool little old school RPG for the PC 9801. It's one I definitely would love to pick up if I ever got the system. And they did have scenario 1, 2, and 3, as well as the Sorcerian system utility, which is like a little data management suite. So it was nice seeing how much they had of the Sorcerian system. So next up we have Space Harrier for the Sharp 68000. This is a really solid port of the game. It's not quite as perfect as the Sega Saturn version, but it's a really nice looking one. And if I'm not mistaken, at the time, I think it may have been the closest to Arcade Perfect. Also, what's interesting about this is the square box, different box shape than the other games. And 3x3 Eyes, this is actually a PC Engine game, but I think it was here because it was big box. And Silent Mobius. So what's interesting about this is before I filmed this video, I had no idea that Gainax actually developed games in the late 80s and early 90s. But yeah, apparently they did. They developed quite a few, and this is one. To me, it looks like a visual novel. I'm not sure if this is just the intro. It's really hard to find footage of a lot of these games online, so I'm kind of just going with my best guess, but the graphics do look pretty nice, and the music was really solid too. Here's All Shark. This is another game. I'm not sure what genre this game is, but the cutscenes look pretty good. That's about as much as I can say. Like I said, these games are very, very hard to find info on. This is Deathbraid. This one is a fighting game. This was a little bit more straightforward to figure out from the back of the box. And here we have an easy recorder for the Memory Stick Duo for the PSP. I believe this is just a device that you can use to easily move files around on your PSP. And they had a bunch of miscellaneous games and accessories and things like that in these bins that you can kind of poke around through, see what you can find. I did find this complete in box Sega Saturn S video cable, which actually, if you don't have components or RGB for your Sega Saturn, this is a fantastic way to play your Saturn. Here we have some LCD style, kind of Game & Watch style consoles, a couple of those there. Just some various odds and ends. And here we've got the Sega Saturn Space Harrier Mission Stick set. This is a really great value. You're going to save a lot of money on this, but it's giant. So if you're going to bring this back with you to the States or wherever you're from, it's going to take up a ton of space in your suitcase. But that is a fantastic way to play Space Harrier. The Saturn port is basically arcade perfect. Here we had some PC Engine games. This was a mix of HuCard and CD and Super CD-ROM games. ZVS here, just going to flip through some quickly. Alien Crush. We also had Kadash. Here you've got Ease 3, really great music in that game. And the Super System card, this was a little bit expensive, but definitely cheaper than eBay. And Macross 2036, this one was new to me, so I looked it up. It's a little side-scrolling shooter. It looks like you can gain some experience points and upgrade your ship. Kind of an interesting one. I think I'd like to pick up when I get a PC Engine. Princess Maker, this is a Bishoujo game, I'm pretty sure. It's another one that I noticed was made by Gainax as well as Microcavin. Asuka 120% Maxima Burning Fest. This is a fighter. I had been aware of the Sega Saturn version, which is pretty popular, but I did not know that there was a port on the PC Engine. This actually looks really good for a PC Engine game. Obviously not quite as advanced as a Saturn, but a good version nonetheless. Okay, this is an interesting one. This is the Sega Dream Eye. This is basically a webcam with some software where you could do video mail, photo mail, some other things like that on your Sega Dreamcast. Just an interesting little oddity to me. I love these kinds of weird accessories. Yeah, there's a couple videos on YouTube if you're curious about it, but yeah, it was fun seeing the big box there on the shelf. And next up, we had some Sega Saturn games. You know I love to dig through some Saturn games, so here we go. First, we had GeoBockers. This one was interesting because it comes with basically the LAN cable. I think it's called the Tyson cable, and you can use it for a few different games. I know Gun Griffin was one of them, and basically it's a system link. You can do one-on-one multiplayer using 2 Saturns and 2 TVs. So yeah, it was cool seeing that big box there. We also had Quo Vadis. This is a game that had really awesome art, but it just looked like a pretty straightforward strategy game. Not something that I think I'd be really interested in. Doesn't look bad, just not what I'm looking for right now. Gunbird. This one is actually less expensive than I thought it would be. I know this is a really well-known shooter on the Saturn, and there's also a PS1 version. I think I might pick this up at some point because for some reason I thought this was a very expensive game. Suikoden, this is one of my all-time favorite RPGs. I actually forgot there was a Saturn version. I'd only played it on the PS1, but you have to play this if you love RPGs. It's amazing. Silhouette Mirage, this is a fun little action platformer shooting game by Treasure. Really quirky, really fun looking. It's a little bit expensive, but it definitely looks interesting. I haven't personally played it myself yet. And Cyber Doll, I had actually for some reason mixed this up with Power Dolls, but looking into it, it was actually kind of interesting cyberpunk styled RPG. I don't know how good it would be, but it kind of had some interesting looking enemies and scenes and things like that. So that's Cyber Doll. So the making of Night Truth, this one obviously stands out because it's not a game, it's a little mini documentary about the making of a game. So that was a fun little novelty to find on the shelf. Space Invaders, I had not seen this game before and I was really curious if it was interesting. I know there's some special versions for like the DS and things like that where they really made some changes to the gameplay, but this is just straightforward Space Invaders. Assault Suit Lanos 2, really wanted to get this game. I'm a huge fan of the model kits and the mecha suits from this series. It's a really cool looking run and gun style game. It's got some great graphics. It also has some, I don't know if I would say simulation, but it kind of feels like it when you're looking at these menus, like all these stats, very kind of just cyberpunk feeling, cool vibe all around. The price was a little bit high here, which was not a problem because you'll see later in the video I found it for a better price and was able to pick it up. Cool Spot Goes to Hollywood. Didn't know there was a sequel to Cool Spot, but that's the fun of these adventures is you learn something new. Zork 1. I was curious about this because Zork is a text adventure. I wanted to know if they added graphics or other gameplay features, and they did. There's some little quality of life things like maps and inventory and whatnot added to this game. This is Desaimon 2. I'm going to talk about this more in depth in another video, but in a nutshell, it's basically a shooter, kind of Mario Maker style game where you build shooters. Cho Aniki. This is a really wacky game. I've wanted to get one game in the series for a long time just because of how strange it is. But basically it's a bodybuilding themed shoot 'em up. Kind of think about like Sexy Parodius or something like that and just turn it on its head, and it's all about male bodybuilders, and that's kind of Choaniki in a nutshell. Here we had some consoles and accessories. They had a ton of stuff to dig through if you were interested. Some cool fighting sticks, a few other accessories like that. They had also this big wall of game guides and books, which was fun to leaf through. Here you've got more accessories, steering wheels, different peripherals, and things like that. Lots of variety. And tucked away in the corner here, we've got the GameCube keyboard controller. Nice little savings on this, but nothing too crazy. I just love to call it out when I see it because I'm a huge fan of it, as well as PSO. Here's some PCFX games, kind of like the PC 9801 and Sharp 68,000. I just hadn't seen these in person before, so it was really cool to, just see them, look at them. And Wonderswan Games. I have been hunting for Wonderswan Games to build my collection. Unfortunately, there was nothing here that I really needed, or if it was something I was kind of interested in, the prices were a little high. Blue Ink Blitz. This is a Square Enix Final Fantasy Tactics style game. Rhyme Rider, that's one of the most famous Wonderswan games. It's a rhythm game. And PS2 Basic Studio. This one is really, really interesting. I couldn't find any footage on it online of anything other than the editing portion of the software, but I have included some screenshots here after I show this footage, and you actually can execute the games you build. There's a few demos, and I'm curious if the demos are included. Typically in games like this, they are included on the disc, and I kind of might want to pick this up to see what those demos are like. Here you've got a Super Game Boy 2 and a nice little wall of Super Famicom and N64 games. It was really crowded at the time, so I did not look through the Super Famicom games, but I looked at a few N64 games. Mystery Dungeon, Sharon the Wanderer, cool little RPG for the N64. I know a lot of people think there are no RPGs for the N64. There are quite a few, they're just mostly Japanese exclusive. And Wonder Project J2. This is one I was really tempted to pick up because the price was not too bad. I don't really know how to explain it. It's kind of like a simulation game, but it has really crazy good graphics for the N64, especially like the 2D animation. It's just really pushing the limits of what the system can do. So yeah, I don't know. I passed on it for now, but maybe in the future. Here they had some manuals. Yeah, I always like it when a game store just has loose manuals if you want to complete your, boxed copy or something like that. Handhelds over here, Game Boy Micro. Quite a bit sun faded on that box. The price was not huge savings either, but they had a nice selection like Vita, Wonderswans, different things like that. And finally, we are going to Beep. So this store, unfortunately, did not allow filming in the store, but they did allow you to take photos. So here you can see the focus of Beep is kind of old school Japanese PCs as well as arcade hardware. So they have like a lot of CPS2 boards and things like that. Just really unique stuff that you're not going to find at the other stores in Tokyo like Trader and Surugaya. Just a very unique store. They had a small selection of Sega Saturn games. And this is where I did pick up my copy of Assault Suit Lanos 2. It was a really good price. Finally added that to my collection. Very, very hyped about that. And they also had a small selection of Wonderswan games. Was happy to see that, of course. And I picked up Engacho. This is a crazy deal. Definitely the best deal of the day. Getting a game that's priced between $120 and $150 for like $45. Crazy good deal. Doing research on this, I found out that in addition to being a wacky Wonderswan puzzler, there's also a PS1 version of the game, which I'm going to show some footage of right here. So I didn't actually know it was a whole, I guess, franchise you can say, or at least there's multiple games in this series. I wasn't aware until I had done a little research on it, but yeah, fun little quirky puzzler. And Armored Unit. So I don't know, this kind of box art, not amazing, but for some reason it stood out to me, so I did a little research on it, and it turns out that it's actually a strategy game that plays kind of like Battleship, or at least that's how it appears from these videos, where you kind of fire missiles into unknown areas and try to find where the enemies are. So I decided to not pick it up, but yeah, interesting learning about a new game for the Wonderswan. So that's about going to do it for this video. Guys, I would love to hear what you thought of this day of game hunting down in the comments. Anything you would have wanted to grab for yourselves or not grab, or just general thoughts. Would love to hear from you. And also, if you did enjoy this video, if you could hit that subscribe button or give it a thumbs up, it would really help grow the channel. Also, speaking of which, I recently launched memberships for the channel. That's really new, and we've already got a couple of members. Thank you guys. I've just added some emotes and some badges. I'm posting behind the scenes content. I'm gonna post a few behind the scenes videos as well coming up shortly. So if you guys want to support the channel, this is a really great way to do it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Gonna be back with some more videos shortly. So Stay tuned. Again, appreciate you all so much. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!